mean to you?
Honestly, I wouldn't even describe myself as a feminist. I use the word because you use it to describe me, and I tend to lean towards those things. So to define feminism for me is irrelevant. But what I will say is that
Feminism,
in terms of what I feel in terms of how I feel I am as a woman, I feel like women and men are both human beings. We just tend to be different genders. We have different essences. We are very much yin and yang in the natural sense, but because we live in a society where we've evolved mentally.
Let me ask you. Hello?
I did not expect you to answer.
Huh?
Hi, how are you?
You were not expecting me to answer?
No, I wasn't. There's
Why?
1,000 people in here. I didn't think I'd be the one that you'd answer.
Just started from the top. What do you got for me? Why do pretty women, especially over 25, feel like they can have it all, especially entrepreneurs and professionals? That was the question.
The question. Okay. Honestly, I feel like most of them can have it all. At least if they're intelligent enough and if they play their cards right. If you're pretty, you're professional, you got your shit together, you're intelligent, what can't you not have in this world?
Well, how old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay. 36. What can't you not have? All.
Well, all is also subjective, right?
No, it's not really. Because see, what I don't do is I don't do this theoretical thing. Like in theory, in theory, you can jump from the ground to the roof under the right conditions. 36 years old. See, the funny thing is, if you ask a man this question, you ask most men this question, can you have it all? Without a beat, they'll say no. So why is it that men answer the question no, and women say, yeah, you can?
Honestly, I can't answer that because I'm not a man. So I don't know why men say this and why women say that. I only know why I say what I say. And I know you were talking about theoretically all, but I think also when I say that all is subjective, what I mean is that when you say, why do women think they can have it all? Technically, when you say all, I'm considering all the things that would personally make me happy.
Okay, well,
right?
Most women want everything. And here's the thing. Let's just say that's the case. But if that held true in reality, then why are women so unhappy? If women can have it all, then why aren't they living that reality?
I think there are some women who are and some women who aren't. I think also
some women, what percentage? I mean, because to say some women, that can mean there's 2 out of 35 out of 3 billion. I'm a very analytical person. So that's kind of blurring and deceptive language. Life is about trade-offs and choices. Trade-offs, compromises, and choices. And in the last 50 years, people began to believe they could have it all. But for the previous recorded history, people understood that you can't. What makes us so different to what women today think you can have it all, and they're not living that reality?
I think also
I'm listening.
We're discussing things from a specific perspective and what society deems as its all for women and men, specifically through the lens of American society, right?
What all? When women say all, generally what they're talking about is they want a man who's financially successful, loyal, good looking, certain height, certain sexual disposition. He's a poet, he's an actor, he's also an undercover spy and everything else. And no, that's in Disney. You don't get that because you can't have it all. Or it would be no more thing that make no more sense than one person trying to think they can get everything from you.
Well, I also don't believe that you can get everything that you need from one individual. I think that's a fallacy that romanticism has created, that you can be completely satisfied with one person and that person satisfied.
You can't have it all.
No, I don't. Oh, well, from one person. Also, when you say it all, you were speaking about from a romantic partner.
Okay, I don't know how, I don't know if you lean more liberal or more conservative. When most people say they want it all, meaning they want the American dream, a big house, marriage, cars, kids, money, trips, travel, an ideal spouse, great sex, great friends, interesting life, you know, the fantasy. It's a fantasy for a reason.
I agree with you. I agree that is a fantasy. So that's why I say like all is subjective, because for someone who's trying to feed into that specific fantasy, that is actually a fantasy. So if you're describing all as what you're saying, then you can't have it all. That is correct.
Okay. However you define all, you can't have it. Unless all is just you. If all has to do with any other human being, you cannot have it all. Give you a case in point. Halle Berry. For years, arguably one of the most beautiful women on the planet. Miserable as French toast. Why? This woman right here should be able to have it all, right? Beautiful, acclaimed actress, rich, successful, can't keep a man, and complaining about child support and family court. And the list goes on. Why do modern women even the notion of having it all is, due respect, it's a childish notion. Because kids want it all. Human beings, adults are supposed to realize you can't. You have to make choices.
Okay, I understand what you're saying now. I guess when I say women can have it all, what I'm saying is that, and why I say it's also subjective, is when I say that I can have it all, I'm meaning the things that I desire that is going to make me happy, that are not necessarily what the American dream is, or what someone else may deem as something that is necessary for me.
So you can.
So
do you have those now? Do you have that now?
Huh?
Do you have that now?
Do I have that now? No, I don't have that now. I'm working towards those things now.
Do you want to be married, everyone?
I'm not sure if marriage is for me or not yet.
You want kids?
I'm not sure if children is for me or not yet. I think for me, if I meet someone that I fall in love with and we both decide that we want to get married, then I'll get married. But is it the end all be all if I don't ever get married? Not necessarily.
Hold on. Marriage is one thing, but kids, there's a yet component. There's a time component.
There is a time component.
So if you decide that you don't want them now, but you meet Prince Charming and you are so inclined to want to reproduce and you're 45, can you still have them?
I can't have my own children. I can adopt. I can surrogate if I decide to.
That's a compromise.
There is a compromise, specifically, yes. If I decide at that age to then have children, as I'm approaching that age, that would be a decision.
Most of the women that come to my show are wanting relationship, i.e. marriage, children, suburban kind of lifestyle. That's what most women want. So as the typical woman that comes to my show, they're not saying whether or not I want to be married. They want to be married. They want kids. They want to not have to work to pay significant bills after they're pregnant. They want a man who's earning a certain amount of income to facilitate a certain kind of lifestyle. But are they fit for that? The kind of men they want, what do they want from women, and do those women fit the bill? See, if you watch my show, if you go back and watch, for 9 months, I hold interviews and talk night after night after night. And consistently, 99.99999% of women tend to want the same thing, but they're not getting it.
Yes. I think personally, and this is personally for me, I think that a lot of the things that women want, they don't realize that it may not be necessarily that they particularly want that, or those things are going to fulfill them in the way that they perceive it to fulfill them. And they desperately want these things to fulfill a void that they themselves have not filled. So that's what I personally feel. That's why I say, I don't know if marriage is for me yet. And I don't know if children is for me yet until I find an individual that I would want to have children with, or that I would want to get married with. If we were to get to that point, I can make that decision. But if I were to take marriage and children and then decide that these are the things that I need in order to have happiness in life, and then if that I never fulfill those things, then I'll never be happy. Instead of just seeking happiness in other places. But I find that society puts us such a heavy weight on marriage and children for women.
Society doesn't put a heavy weight on it. It's our biological imperative. We're meant to be on this planet to reproduce.
To reproduce, yes, but not necessarily get married.
Okay, and the best way of raising a child. The best way of raising a child is in a two-parent household for the best potential outcome. So, but a lot of things you said, ma'am, sound very modernist, womanist, feminist notion. That if I choose, that implies that what you're saying implies that you just can go pick a man. A man has to choose you to be a wife. It's not you just falling in love with him. He has to decide if he wants to marry you. We control access to marriage. You control access to sex and birth. We decide that.
I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with that. And it may just be because I am modernist and I am feminist and all these things. I feel like two individuals choose each other.
And the part of the problem, and if you study any civilization, when they lean towards modernist, feminist, they tend to decline. Because the first thing that falls apart is the fundamental building block of a society, which is family. We control access. Who pursues in a relationship, men or women?
Well, in American society, men do.
Not American society, worldwide.
Pretty much, men do. There are certain.
Okay, ma'am. In the animal kingdom, so this is where this feminist stuff starts to fall apart, because you can only be feminist in the first world country. We've civilized the world in general to where you can have all these flighty notions that don't work in a state of nature. Who pursues in a relationship sense? It's men. It doesn't have to be 100% or absolute value. Those are deflections. You know what I'm saying? Men typically pursue in a relationship. We pursue. We ask. You can choose to decline or accept. If you want to get married, and if no man wanted to marry you, you can't get married.
That's true. Yes.
So, what does feminism mean to you?
Feminism.
What's the purpose of? What does it mean to you?
Honestly, I wouldn't even describe myself as a feminist. I use the word because you used it to describe me, and it is. I tend to lean towards those things. So to define feminism for me is irrelevant. But what I will say is that
feminism,
in terms of what I feel, in terms of how I feel I am as a woman, I feel like women and men are both human beings. We just tend to be different genders. We have different essences. We are very much yin and yang in the natural sense, but because we live in a society where we've evolved mentally.
Let me ask you some very simple questions. If Thanos snapped away men, could women on this planet survive to the end of their natural lives? Could they maintain the infrastructure? Could the infrastructure that's in place now, could women maintain the infrastructure to where the majority of women survive to the end of their natural lives?
I feel like if Thanos did like this and all the men disappeared, women would have to then adjust to this new lifestyle.
And they'd be dying.
Women could be able to
Women would die for the amazing race because
they would adapt. Things may change, but
listen,
they would adapt.
Listen. You can't. Evolution doesn't happen before nature. You don't have the physical strength to manipulate the environment to the extent that it needs to be. That's why you don't do the jobs. See, if Thanos snapped the women away, we couldn't reproduce, but we could live to the end of our lives naturally because we built the infrastructure. See, this whole notion of men and women being equal is poor. We're not equal. The male and female in any gender, in any species, the male is the larger, the more dominant, for the most part in mammals. We don't need you. You need us.
I think we need each other.
No, we need each other for reproduction, not survival. I've had this conversation over and over. You put a woman in nature by herself, she will die. My hand strength, the typical female's hand strength is 17 times less than a man. You can't manipulate the environment. It's just not possible. Physically not possible. Men can.
Yes, and I understand that, but there are other ways to live. I would not necessarily need the amount of strength that a man has to survive. There are other ways to survive. You will adapt. You learn how to eat different foods. You learn how to plant. You know how to grow different types of foods.
But planting requires time. All the stuff you're talking about requires time. And all the stuff you're talking about also requires protection. You need the protection that men have provided in the society. At least they allow this stuff to happen. You be out on the prairie planting, and if a man decides he wants to come along and take it, what you gonna do?
You just said that men are gone. You said Thanos said gone.
Okay, but we've gone through two different things.
Okay.
But even as this, man, okay. Feminism at its core was not about equality. It was about choice. If a woman wanted to be a housewife, that was supposed to be fine. If she wanted to work, it was fine. Now we have this notion that we're equals. We're not equals. We're not equals in any sense of the imagination. There is a definite distinction. Women need the group. Just like lionesses need the group to survive and hunt. The lion needs that. He can hunt on his own. Men can manipulate an environment by themselves and live. Women cannot. A singular female can't. And see, the fact
but
that
a woman in a pride or a commune of women can.
To a certain degree. Just like a pride of lionesses can hunt effectively, but they cannot effectively take down the largest prey. Not wildebeest, water buffaloes, hippopotamuses, they can't. It requires the lion. They can't. Giraffe, they can't do it.
But they can take down enough prey to survive.
But they can't keep it. The hyenas take it away.
But this is what I'm saying is that I understand what you're saying in terms of in the larger sense.
But still, you're still talking about.
But there have been groups in society that were
women.
But
the thing is, ma'am, listen. The reason a singular woman needs a group, and even a group of women is still insufficient to what men can do. And this is the point. This really is not even shouldn't even be a conversation, except in this notion that we're trying to make men and women be equal. We are not equal. If you take away all society, all government, Book of Eli kind of stuff, you're out in the wilderness, figuring out how to hunt and grow, all that other kind of stuff. That's fine. No one, but then a roaming band of men come by. If they decide they want what you have, including you, what can you do to stop them?
If the women were trained to fight, then would they not be able to fight?
No.
You get what I'm saying? Like they have been women warriors.
Not effectively. No. Again, and what you say, women warriors. So I have 3 black belts, and I would tell you some of the best female fighters pale in comparison to even intermediates. You're physically weaker. The only way women can survive is by possibly projectile weapons if we have ammunition. But no, you're just out here. Hunter-gatherer society. You know the answer. It just, modern women tend to not like the fact that you are not equal to men physically.
I agree with you. Women are not equal to men physically, but war is not just about physicality. It's about tactic. It's about intelligence. It's about using other things. You can win a war with not just physicality.
Okay, show me where women have been able to survive in a group by themselves. In any time. Where?
I can't like quote off. I don't have like a book, but there have been female societies.
No, they don't, ma'am. Because what you're saying is, even talking about war. All right, you know what? You got all the strategy in the world. Ooh, you still gotta sleep. And see, this is what I mean. Modern women really have a problem admitting, damn, the reason I can have these modern women's notions is because men have civilized the world in general and have built a structure of government and security to where you can be right where you are, feeling safe to espouse these things. But if the men stop protecting that society, no more police, no more fire, no more government, none of that. What? You guys are out here.
All right, let me pose a certain argument as well. I also find that a lot of the violence and animosity that exists in the world came from a man.
And
a lot of matriarchal societies have less war and have more.
No, they don't. That's not true.
Yeah, they do.
No, okay, first of all, the wars, most conflict comes as a result of women. Most wars in the
because of men, though.
Okay, name me the matriarchal society that you're talking about that existed and thrived. Name me a matriarchal society that existed and thrived.
Definitely have, at some point in my life, looked this up. Because I was having this argument a couple of years ago, maybe like 3, 4, 5 years ago, with my friend Luz and her husband. And we were discussing this and we were looking up different examples where we saw that a lot of matriarchal societies, specifically like in Africa.
Societies where?
In Africa, where they were they were much more communal societies.
Again, this is that warrior,
they were much more communal societies and there was less war.
Ma'am, less war does not mean...
What I find is that
what it comes right down to is less war, no war. Without men, you guys would perish quickly. You need men, because even in those matriarchal societies where women, they still had men to manipulate the environment. Why is it so hard for women to just admit that we are different and we're different for a reason?
I agree that we are different.
But there's an order.
I agree we are different, but I don't think that what I am disagreeing with you with is that I don't think that we can't not survive without men. At least to the end. Like, for instance, if men were to disappear today, I'll figure out how to survive to the end of my days. Particularly, I'm going to speak for myself. I will end up figuring it out.
Okay,
but
so
for
you say
that, men will be able to survive to the end of their days, and women can. I don't agree with that necessarily.
As a woman, you say that. What state do you live in?
I live in California.
All right. Have you ever lived in your city where they have had the power out for 2 weeks?
No.
Okay. Have you ever lived in a state where okay, so you've never experienced massive power outage. Have you ever lived in a place where the water was off for a week?
No.
Okay, ma'am, I hate to break it to you. How long do you live without water? Fresh water, how long does a human being live?
I think it's 72 hours without water.
3 minutes without oxygen, 3 days without water, 30 days without food or something, 3 months without food.
Yeah, 30 days without food, I think 3 days without water.
So the point is, you want to see a real live example without all the theory? When you leave, go to Amazon Prime and go look up Bear Grylls. The name is Bear Grylls. Grylls, the island. Season 2, where he drops a group of men on an island in the middle of the Pacific, and they have to survive for 6 weeks. That's season 1. Season 2, they expanded it. They dropped women on one island, men on another. Go watch what happened to the women. On the end of day 1, men that got from one side of the beach to another, established the beachhead, started clearing out of shelter, or was making water, and they're already hunted. Women had pushed in 300 yards into the jungle, gotten lost. Half of the group went this way, And there are times in the production that if the production crew had not stepped in, women would have died. They came out and said that they manipulated the environment to allow women to survive. Man, it's just not your role to live by yourself. You say you could survive. Okay, let's say you can, but all it takes is an injury. Then what all that can-do spirit, what about the other women? You break an ankle. I've broken an ankle. You ever break a bone?
Yes.
Then what? See, men can still get stuff done because even with a broken bone, men can manipulate the environment. Something happens to that roof in the building you're on. Who possesses the strength to patch it, even if you had the materials? You see what I mean?
I see what you're saying. What I find is that even everything that you're saying, a certain amount of knowledge on both ends can a knowledge and a adaptation is what it is.
You can have all of the knowledge in the world. If you cannot lift the items, there's no knowledge. If you cannot create a fulcrum, see, that's what I mean. Men have built the world so well to where you ladies don't even realize how it was built. You just use it. And that's the point. We do that because, you know what? Women like comfort. Women like running water. Women like heating air and lights, because if we can make you comfortable, we can have sex. That's why we did all this. But now the social contract is such that women have basically told men, okay, thank you for civilizing the world in general, basically ending war, because in my lifetime, there's not been any world wars. There's not been any real wars. Outside of COVID, we have not had any plagues. Infant mortality is, if you got pregnant, you just automatically assume you're going to have a healthy baby, instead of losing 30% in childbirth, dying in childbirth. And then we have done such a good job to where women, instead of saying, wow, I have all these freedoms and choices, to the point now women turning to men and saying, well, I can do this without you. And men are looking at you like, are you out of your mind?
What I also think a lot of the things that you're saying in terms of like what led to quote unquote civilization as you're speaking, there have been women influences in that as well.
Name me 5 great female inventors.
Excuse me?
5 great female inventors. I'll give you one, Madame Curie. Go.
I was going to say Madame Curie.
That's the only one you got.
Well, I think also we don't learn about a lot of these things. And a lot of the times,
because women
they do exist, but they do exist.
They don't. No, they don't. Like not like women want them to. Because when human beings are left alone, we assort ourselves well. See, when humans are left alone, men tend to gravitate towards science, engineering, technology, and math. Why are there still less than 5% of all college students in science, engineering, technology, and math? Why are less than 5% women?
I think also that's the way that society gears men towards.
No, ma'am.
Literally from elementary.
You have a choice.
From elementary school. I'm gonna tell you right now. From elementary school, through junior high school, they cater towards men. They gear the men towards those things.
They used
that is true.
That is not, ma'am. They used to do that when they had home ec and shop. No, in this feminist world, it's a gender neutral curriculum. This we are not even seeing the effects of the gender neutral world. We are just now we're starting to see the effects of it.
Of a gender neutral world with Gen Z.
We're starting to see the effects of it. We're starting to see we're starting to see the effects of it. That's
we still see in this world.
Okay, man.
Girls play with Barbie. Boys play with
Why
cars.
are women not going into the trades, science? Why are women not going into the very things that help the society run? Women, when left to their own, go into humanities and the arts. They don't go into science.
Because that's what they cater women towards.
That's not what they cater towards.
I'll tell you this right now. The world in 100 years is going to be completely now that there's not a
Are you trying to tell me that women, are you trying to tell me
even in education they cater women towards certain things and they cater men towards certain things?
No.
Sir, are you really sitting here telling me that in school they don't cater people towards one way or the other depending on what their gender is?
Louder and louder and louder. No,
they do, sir.
Don't overtalk me on my show.
Okay.
That's rude.
Sir.
Because I'm going to ask you. Okay, you were raised by your parents. Did you go to public school?
I went to public school.
So a public school curriculum, are you telling me in the public school curriculum, they shifted women one direction and men another?
When I sat down with my guidance counselor, yes.
No.
When I sat down with my guidance counselor, they're like, hey, Mel, why don't you look into nursing instead of this? I'm like,
guidance counselor, what did your mother and father do?
My mother and father also wanted me to be more feminine and take more feminine routes than what is considered a masculine route.
So now what we're doing, audience, is lacking accountability. Because now you're saying the reason you are where you are is because your parents put you here and their guidance counselor. You're 36?
Mm-hmm.
When you went to college, who paid for it?
The state paid for it.
Uh-huh. And did you get a scholarship?
Technically, yes.
Okay. Did you have any student loans?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Did you get to choose your curriculum?
I did choose my curriculum.
Okay, so mommy and daddy had nothing to do with that, neither did the guidance counselor. That was your choice.
No, they did not.
No, you got to choose.
Yeah, I did choose.
Okay.
I think what we're failing to understand is within choice, and you use accountability, right? Even within choice, the choices you have are also based on how you learned.
I don't believe in this predeterminism stuff. You have choices.
I do believe that. If you learn something to be and you naturally are going to select choices in the way that you have learned. It's psychology.
Why, again, I don't believe in predeterminism because it goes to learned helplessness. Women have a choice. You could choose to go to the Mayo Clinic and become an engineer just like so many women that follow my platform. And if I actually allowed you on my YouTube platform, women would shout you down for saying that they don't have choices. They were steered this way. You can choose.
I never said that they don't have choices.
Okay, but so who's responsible for your outcomes? Basically saying that your choices, they steered you this way. They steer guys into athletics too, but you can still decide to do something else. And when left alone, even outside of this bizarro land you're talking about, women still they are trying to, since you want to talk about it, they are pushing women to get, Title IX is pushing women to the STEM, and women aren't going there. They don't want to do it. They're offering women scholarships that go unfulfilled at the University of Oklahoma. They can't get them in there. They don't want to.
I think, again, what I'm saying is the effects of what's going on now, where even playing with different toys, specifically with different toys, I am now seeing toys that can cater to a female engineer now, like maybe within the last 5 years, 6 years. I didn't have those toys growing up where I could build things and use my curiosity in that way as a girl, because the girls played with girls' toys and the boys played with boys' toys. I mean, you can say, and then regardless of the fact, I'm not saying that the choice doesn't exist, but regardless, it is a learned experience. You make choices from your learned experience.
I'm not going to try to change the way a feminist or a womanist thinks because it's pointless. The bottom line is this: you wanted a world where you were more equal, you got it. And with equality comes accountability. So you want to be more equal and have the choice? Then if you want to be equal, then here's what you also need to do. Title IX, you're supposed to be equal pay for equal work. You need to be serving equality on the front lines. You need to be equally in the sewers, equally on the trucks, equally on the skyscrapers, equally in the fire department, equally in the police department, without any changing of the rules. You need to be able to do a 200-pound dead man's carry if you want the same money. This world has catered to women's desires and fantasies and made so many women today believe you're special and you're just, I want to say just average, but you're not really producing. Women take from a society. Men give. Give you a case in point. Korea, and those Korea and Japan, South Korea and Japan, two civilizations that are dying. Why? Because people under 30 are not mating. They are not having even replacement rates of population. What's happening? The people who are elderly are dying by themselves. It's called kodo koshi. The difference is, when men used to be hermits, not married, bachelors, they would still work to the end of their existence. And if a man became homeless or something else like that, he would take little or no resources from the state after working for the federal government or the military. Women, on the other hand, demand resources from the state. In Korea, it's going bankrupt trying to provide for women who have chosen to become florists, working in offices. Women are not even making enough money for their economy to supplement their existence. So basically, the men of the society who aren't married to you, aren't having sex with you or babies, are still having to provide for you out of their pay through the society. And it's killing us, it's crippling us, and it has happened throughout history. Anytime a society goes Western, anytime a society starts going more towards LGBTQ, open sexuality, things like that, and womanism, feminism, the collapse is not far behind. You can't sustain a society without producers.
I don't believe that women cannot be producers.
I didn't say they cannot, they're just not. I don't care what they can be, I care what they are.
Okay, so, and I think you and I are just gonna always defer in that opinion, because what you're basically saying is an absolutist idea that is not necessarily true. Women can be producers and women can produce. Are there certain things that men can be more effective at in terms of what their physicality allows?
Okay, let me stop you right here. Okay, I grant you, women can do it, but if they're not doing it, they're not doing it because they have a choice. And it seems to me the only way to get women to produce like you say they can be is to compel them.
I don't necessarily think it's to compel them, but it's to teach both male and females that they are completely capable of doing these things outside of their physicality. You get what I'm saying? So for me personally,
California, it's a donor. California contributes to the federal, to the government. You're a donor state. You make more income and you contribute. In the middle of the country, there are not contributors, but they take more. Do you think the average working woman pays in more or takes out more of society?
I don't have that data, and I wouldn't know. But
you take more.
Yes.
That's why societies are That's why societies are crumbling, because when left to your own, even if women possess the intellect and the ability, they don't possess the aptitude or the desire to want to go into the things that really produce. You know, at 36 years old, just like I did at 51 years old, that going to school in engineering was going to give you a higher rate of income than going to school in English. But there are still people who go to English, art, history, dance, this, that, such, and so forth. And they do it in a society, one, because they don't have to worry, because at the end of the day, we have a government safety net and women can basically rely on the system, but it's breaking, it's broken. You live in California. You can go out into any part of California and see tent cities growing. And you know what's starting to grow more than anything else? It used to be men. Now it's starting to fill up with women.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing.
But women are also one of the fastest growing entrepreneurs, one of the fastest growing small business owners, one of the fastest growing in this country.
But are you employed? But you may be going to small business owners, entrepreneurs, but you're not employing anybody. It's solopreneurs. That's one woman producing. You're not creating jobs for other women. Who creates jobs for women? Men.
In this society.
In what society?
In this society, it's set up that way. It's like saying it's what society right are you talking about? We have to catch up to men right now. That's what we got to do. We got to catch up to men right now. It's like saying that racism doesn't exist. Right now, women have to catch up to men. Men have been the leaders of society.
And who's feeding you? And hold on. Okay. Hold on. Who's feeding and clothing and taking care of you while you're catching up? Who's carrying that bill?
I'm taking care of myself.
That's you. But for the most part, women take more than they're putting in. So that time that you need to catch up, it's on another man's dime. It's on the men of the country's dime.
At this moment in time, I agree with you. There are more women who are taking than are producing, but there are women who are producing, and then there are more women who are producing at a higher rate.
Okay, women who are producing, for the women who are producing, you're not producing enough for your gender. See, men can produce. See what men do. We produce enough for our gender and to cover you. Women produce enough the women who do produce tend to produce enough for them. You don't produce enough for you and other women. Women still are relying on men. And it's about time that you women start admitting and acknowledging the fact that you do require us to be on this planet. Because if we didn't have the water running and the roadways fixed and the security and the fire, you couldn't do what it is you do. We provide an environment for you to even have an economy.
But those jobs were set for men before women would even enter those jobs.
No. Is that true or false?
Those are historically male-dominated jobs.
See, so audience, see what we're doing? No. Is that true or false?
This is true, but you're speaking. You're speaking about what the effect is without the cause.
No, why can't
you're not discussing the cause? Male-dominated. You think the woman can't make it to the education system? You think a woman can't fix a road? You think a woman can't build a house?
No. Why can't women like yourself acknowledge the fact before you move the goalpost?
What I'm saying is that, yes, right now men do a lot of those things. Can women do those things? Yes, women can do those things.
Why? Okay, ma'am, but are they?
But now, if we lived in a society, where it wasn't expected for women to do certain things and men to do certain things, then these roles would not be so specific.
Are they?
They are not in this at this time. But how about 50 years down the line?
Who's gonna feed and clothing? Who's gonna feed clothing? Who's gonna take up that cost while you're doing it? We're equals, right?
Who's gonna what?
Who's gonna foot the bill while y'all are getting caught up? Men?
You foot your own bill.
No. While women are if you are behind as a gender, and since we're equal, if you need 50 years to get caught up, that means 50 years of water, sewage, police, fire, all these government and economy that's created and run by men. Fine. Then you, at 50 years, you're going to owe 50 years worth of input. So that means in 50 years, men are going to be able to do what? Sit back and say, okay, now women, you do it. We're going to put our feet up and we're going to catch up with y'all.
I mean, I think what you're doing, you're making the argument very extreme. And I think at some point,
it very real.
No, I think for me personally, because what you're basically saying is like, okay, well, y'all catch up so then we can switch roles, but not necessarily. I feel like there's very specific gender roles in society. There's very specific gender roles in society, in American society. And because of this idea that exists that women are not doing things or women cannot do things.
What society are you talking about that exists where women
I'm speaking about American society. I'm talking about Western civilization.
Where are women these great producers? Where?
Women can be these producers. As education changes, as these gender roles are not as strict.
Where? I keep asking you where, and every time I ask you where or something,
there are many women in this. There are women in America who are great producers.
Stop, please, ma'am. You keep talking about potential. I'm talking about reality. I don't want to talk about potential. I want to talk about in reality. In reality, where are women doing this? I don't even need a country. Give me a state. Give me a township. Give me a place where women are doing these things. Where?
I find that women are more producers in metropolitan areas. So you go to New York City, you go to Los Angeles, you go to Atlanta. That's where you find most
dominates, and the infrastructure is still run by men.
Their infrastructure has been run by men for years. That's not going to change overnight.
Okay, this is going nowhere. So this is what I want everybody to understand. This is the ultimate problem with feminism and womanism. It just gets to a point to where it becomes a circular Ouroboros argument. It is because it is. But then what are you doing? Well, I can't because I was. Bottom line is
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it is changing. It is changing.
We've got enough. Okay, I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm
going to talk
with
Gen Z very clearly.
I'm going to talk to my audience. You're not going to talk over me. I'm going to talk to my audience. If you talk over me, I'll just bid you a good night. Okay, I'm talking to my audience. This is a circular argument. You see what I kept trying to do? It keeps going back to, well, women are it's never their responsibility. School geared me this way, society geared me this way, but in my mind, we can do it. We can do it. We can do it. All right, then do it. Well, we need time. All right, who's responsible to pay for that time? If you're on your own, you're taking it from a society. And you're taking it from the men and telling men by the same consequence that we're equals when you're taking more. This can't work. This is why Rome fell, Greece fell, and other civilizations where this stuff started happening. Do your history. When womanism, feminism crept in, the fall was not far. It's unsustainable. It's not personal, man. It's not personal.
No, I'm not saying it's personal. I personally would have to do more research to come to that conclusion.
That's why every time I asked you, where was this civilization where women were able, because in Rome, women got the power, the right to vote. They had, but it fell. And the thing is, you're looking at a society where men are doing everything that men are doing, and you're basically saying that women, if given a chance, could do the same thing. Okay, you have all the opportunity. There's nothing stopping women. And when given the choice, women still, like human beings do, sort themselves into things that women like to do. Work in the humanities, government. Women tend to go for softer jobs. Men go for more dangerous jobs.
More women do that in our society. More women are leaning towards opening.
Okay,
what I'm saying is that it is gradually changing.
Why do you keep saying our society?
Because this is the society that we live in. I can only discuss things in the society that I live in. This is the society that I'm more familiar with. So when I say this society, I'm speaking about where I live. I live in America. I'm talking about American society in general. So that's why I keep on saying this society. But what I'm saying also is that women are slowly but surely doing more things that are not historically women jobs. There are more women engineers. There are more women scientists.
They're not. They're not. That's the thing. There are not.
You're saying there are not more women engineers, more women scientists, more women CEOs, more women things in this day and age than there were 20 years ago?
No, they are not. Jesus Christ, man. They're not. Colleges and universities are offering scholarships and incentives to get more women into STEM. What aren't you hearing? Women
I heard you, sir.
But they're not doing it.
Okay, and again, what I'm saying is that the change is coming. The change, more women are gearing towards that than they have in the past, is what I'm saying. And again, what I said before is that change isn't going to happen overnight.
More women, okay, so this is what women tend to do. More women are gearing towards, okay, see, men have a sense of urgency. We have to live in reality. This slow theoretical progression you're talking about, women don't. How about this, man? Women just don't typically want to go into science, engineering, technology, and math. It's not because they don't have the brain power. They just don't like the jobs. They don't like the environment.
I think that's society's fault.
You're out of your French toast mind.
No,
okay, it's always, no. That's bullshit. That's bullshit because at this point, then women are children. Women are children in your scenario. They're not accountable for anything.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you are learned and if society gears gender roles as strict as it has in this society that we live in.
This is a disease. It is society's fault that women are choosing not to go into careers that sustain society.
Because your choices are an effect of your learned experience.
No. You're lucky you're cute.